Welcome to today's analysis. In this explainer, we're going to explore a massive, honestly mind-bending shift in how we think about wealth creation. We're challenging pretty much everything we've been taught about building a financial legacy. We've pulled together some truly fascinating insights from market experts, and we're diving headfirst into that age-old debate, mutual funds versus real estate. So get comfortable because we're about to break down the actual literal math behind generational wealth. So let me ask you a question. Is your property actually making you rich? Culturally, we have this deeply, deeply ingrained belief that buying physical real estate is just the ultimate pinnacle of financial success, right? You buy a plot, a flat, or a shop, and boom, you've made it. But the data and the expert analysis we're looking at today, they actually suggest that this traditional, comfortable mindset might be the very thing holding you back from truly monumental wealth. To really understand why, we need to unpack this foundational quote from our source material. The game isn't about chasing profit. It's about knowing when to exit and playing the long-term game. See, most people jump into the market with this incredibly frantic mindset. They're constantly chasing the next quick buck, trying to guess if something is going to magically go from 100 to 1,000 overnight. But true wealth, it requires immense patience. It's absolutely not about quick hits. It's about a disciplined, long-term strategy. Which brings us to Section 1, Not Profit, Long-Term Game. Okay, so when we talk about investment avenues like mutual funds, people so often make the mistake of treating them like a get-rich-quick scheme. They apply this tiny short-term lens to a long-term vehicle, and then, when it doesn't instantly double their money, they completely panic. But historically, the consistency of the data over time is just wild. We aren't talking about a lucky one-year run here. Reliable 10-year compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, shows mutual funds consistently delivering staggering returns. Depending on the fund, historical 10-year growth ranges from 12% to 15%, all the way up to 28 or even 30%. But here's the catch. To actually capture those numbers, you literally have to stay in the seat. And unfortunately, staying in the seat is exactly what most people don't do. I like to call this the patience trap. Imagine this scenario. You invest your money. In year one, the market dips, and your portfolio drops 5%. You're getting a little nervous. Year two rolls around. It drops another 10%. Now you're panicking. You're thinking, wow, this was a huge mistake, and you pull all your money out. But then comes year three, a massive 50% surge. Because of judging a long-term investment by a short-term time frame, you completely miss out on the phenomenal growth that rewards patient investors. Moving right along to Section 2, Property versus Stock Market. First off, let's be absolutely crystal clear about something. The experts are definitely not against owning the roof over your head. This is what we call the primary home rule. Having one residential home for your family's security, a place where you can sleep peacefully at night, is absolutely essential. Even if you have to take out a loan for it, that's for your family's safety and stability. But, and this is a massive, game-changing but, we really have to distinguish between buying a home to live in and buying property purely as a financial investment. Because when we compare them strictly as investments, the math speaks entirely for itself. The contrast is actually quite stark. Over a typical 10-year period, a broad stock market index has historically delivered a CAGR of around 17 to 20%. Meanwhile, your average property investment? That yields a CAGR of just about 9%. So from a purely productive standpoint, one instrument is running at nearly double the speed of the other. Why on earth would you lock your money in an asset growing at 9% when you could easily be capturing 17% or more? And it's not just about lower returns either. Property comes with some really heavy hidden baggage. First of all, you need massive starting capital. Try finding a decent two-bedroom flat in a major city like Noida for under 1.5 crores today. It's practically impossible. Second, if you don't have that kind of cash sitting around, you're essentially chaining yourself to 25 years of home loan slavery. Third, there's the constant, nagging risk of fake paperwork or trusting the wrong middleman. And finally, it often just turns into dead money. Properties can literally sit empty for years with no buyers and no tenants. All right, Section 3, Liquidity. Instant money, instant solution. Picture this for a second. You own a beautiful property worth 1 crore. Suddenly, a medical emergency pops up, and you desperately need exactly 5,000 rupees in cash. What exactly are you going to do? Are you going to rip out a window and sell it? Unbolt the front door? Sell a bathroom tap? No way! Your money is completely and utterly trapped inside that concrete box.
And that beautifully or maybe brutally illustrates the real danger of illiquid assets. Real estate is trapped capital. You simply cannot sell fractions of a house, and selling the whole thing takes months, sometimes even years. Plus, buyers will negotiate you down mercilessly because they know you're desperate. On the flip side, mutual funds represent liquid capital. If you have a 1 crore mutual fund portfolio and you need 5,000 rupees today, you just log in, request a withdrawal for that exact amount, and boom, the money's in your bank account. The rest of your wealth just sits there completely uninterrupted, continuing to grow.
This liquidity factor creates an incredibly accessible system. It's basically a two-step mechanism. Step 1, you don't need a 1.5 crore lump sum just to get started. Got 500 or 1,000 rupees? Just press a button and congratulations, you're an investor. Step 2, when life inevitably happens and you need cash, you press another button and withdraw exactly what you need instantly. It's 100% in your control, zero dependency on shady real estate brokers, and zero waiting for the right market conditions to find a buyer. Which brings us to the really exciting part. Section 4, the magic 100 crore formula. We've talked a lot about the math and the mechanics, but how do we actually build generational wealth? When I say 100 crore, your brain probably automatically assumes you need to be earning millions every month just to get there. But listen to this number right here, 1,000 rupees. That's it. That is literally pocket money. Massive wealth creation does not start with crores, it starts with 1,000 rupees and an absolute powerhouse of a force called compounding. Let's break down the actual math here, because this is where the magic really happens. Say a 17 or 18-year-old starts today with a simple 1,000 rupee monthly SIP, a systematic investment plan. They put this into a mutual fund with an expected historical CAGR of, let's say, 12 to 15%. Now, if they just leave that alone, don't touch it, don't try to outsmart the market, just let it sit there for their lifetime, roughly 60 to 70 years, that tiny 1,000 rupees a month absolutely snowballs into a final corpus of 100 crore rupees. I know it sounds like total fiction, but I promise you, it is pure, undeniable mathematics. The absolute biggest takeaway from all of this is simple. The power of compounding transforms small, highly disciplined investments into monumental generational wealth. It is not about taking on massive high-stress loans to buy a property that you're stuck paying off for a quarter of a century. It's about consistent, small, disciplined actions over an extended period. Time is, without a doubt, the ultimate multiplier. Just let that sink in for a second. 100 crore. This staggering, life-altering potential is available to virtually anyone who has the discipline to start small and the patience to just wait it out. It completely bypasses the massive capital requirements of real estate, it ignores all the terrifying noise of short-term market dips, and it relies entirely on the historically proven trajectory of long-term economic growth. And that brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. The math is incredibly clear. The comparison against physical property is honestly undeniable. And the barrier to entry has quite literally never been lower. The only variable left in this entire equation is you. So I'm going to leave you with one very simple question to think about. Did your 1,000 rupee SIP start today? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay disciplined, and I'll see you in the next analysis.